You're listening to Beyond the Wounds podcast, where we share our stories of trauma and pain and our long journey to healing. This is Gabrielle Fuentes, your host. Good day, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Wounds podcast, a space created for open, honest, and healing conversations. This podcast was born through my own journey through the trauma and the realization that so many of us are carrying silent stories. Here, we give voice to those experiences. Each episode, we sit down with everyday people, survivors, and therapists to talk about trauma in all of its forms. Not to dwell on the pain, but to understand it, process it, and move toward healing. Whether you're just starting your journey or deep in the works, this podcast is a reminder that you're not alone and your story matters. This is a safe space for truth, connection, and growth. Together, we will explore how we begin to rebuild one conversation at a time. Well, hello, everybody. This is your host. For the first 1, 2, 3 episodes, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I will be starting with my backstory, just kind of get things started. Later on, we'll have other people join our little podcast. So let's get this started. So for you all, you guys already know, my name's Gabrielle Fuentes. I'm married to a very wonderful husband. He's Mexican, but that's all right. He's cute. We have a beautiful baby boy together. So, we're going to take a step back to, when I was really young. I lived with my birth parents. I never remembered anything bad. I remembered I loved my mom a lot. And I always thought she was a good person. I still think she is. But I'm not sure what happened exactly. One day we were at school and Child Protective Services showed up and they took us from school. I had 2 younger brothers. I was the oldest of 3. But yeah, they took us from school, and next thing I know, we were in foster homes. Before that, there was nothing wrong. It's just kind of hard to process that, how did that even happen? But yeah, so we were put in foster care. We got shuffled around for a year or 2 until we landed with who would be our adoptive parents later on. And that's when most of my trauma started. I had some stuff from when I was younger. I had other family members, I had, my aunt's boyfriend had molested me, and and another guy, I'm not sure if he was a cousin or what he was. No one could ever give me answers, and I was about 4. He had almost raped me, and I remember that. But those are very just small parts of my life that I don't remember too well. But yeah, when it comes to my adoptive parents, that's something that's just completely different. I cannot include their names just for reasons, where and all that, just because, I'm more worried about them trying to come after me, because I know they're not going to want their secret out, but this is about me getting this off my chest, So, we were with them in foster care, I think maybe 2 or 3 years, if that makes sense. But yeah, we were with them about 2 or 3 years as foster kids, before we got adopted. It all started out okay, normal, it seemed like a good place, but as time progressed, I think it was after about a year or so there is when things really started to set in, if you know what I mean. Um, they just they started feeding us less, and it was a lot of, they didn't want us to love our birth parents anymore. I don't know, they were kind of warped, I guess, in that way. They're constantly giving us ultimatums. Like, of course I'm not going to just like stop loving my real mom because you asked me to, um it was just kind of crazy like that. But they started off like that after the first year we had been there. uh the abuse started to set in. It was mild at first. They started feeding us less, and just a lot of mental and emotional abuse to start with. And then just it got to me, and I started having problems at school. I was stealing stuff at school, like food wise. And, somehow they managed to make everyone believe like I was just a problem child, and I really wasn't. Um, but they were so easy to believe, I guess, because my adoptive dad, he was a pastor of a Baptist church. So, like, these good people who took in, these severely abused kids. And we weren't. I Over the years, I had learned that Child Protective Services is just basically a legal child trafficking system. That's my opinion. Others might think different, but that's my opinion from my own personal experiences. But yeah, after we'd been there, about a year is when the abuse started setting in. They didn't really start the abuse a whole lot until after we were adopted. um there was a lot of manipulation because I don't know if it was like my choice to be adopted or not. They made it seem that way, if that makes sense, but then at the same time they made it seem like it wasn't. I'm not sure. 'Cause I remember being asked if that's what we wanted, but like also we were manipulated. They're like, no one ever wanted you. You will end up in a group home for the rest of your life. This was the last stop for you guys, and just a lot of stuff like that. Of course, like I didn't want to end up in a group home the rest of my life, so I said yes, but things hadn't gotten too bad yet. But after we got adopted, that's when things really, really changed. Um, like after we were adopted, they pulled us out of public school because when you're foster care, they wouldn't allow you to be homeschooled. You had to go to public school. But they pulled us out of public school, saying they're going to homeschool us, and they did at first a little bit. Just they, I don't know, they had this messed up notion like we had to be absolutely perfect in everything, and if we weren't perfect in our school, we were automatically failed. And they weren't teaching us, and I was always had a difficult time learning. Just you know so I don't know, at one point she just quit. I don't know. Instead, we, I think we were adopted maybe about 6 months before this started, and they just started locking us in our rooms. We basically came out to sometimes go to the bathroom and doctor's appointments, to go to church. But other than that, we were just locked in our rooms. This was for me and my brothers. We experienced all this together. Um, but yeah, when that started, when we're getting locked in rooms, it got so bad so fast. At one point, it just we're maybe lucky to get a bologna sandwich on the floor once a day, because as they called, the perfect kids are family kids, and family kids only get to eat normal meals and at the dinner with the rest of the family, so we can eat our meals in our room off our floor like the animals we are, is what we were told. um and they took everything out of our rooms. Like, we weren't even allowed to have a bed. Well, a lot of that was because we weren't allowed to go to the bathroom. They locked us in a room, so we weren't allowed to go to bathrooms except for when they let us out, which is like maybe three or four times a day, and like I couldn't hold it. I had to pee. So I ended up having to pee on myself, and well, eventually I got smart because they would beat us whenever that happened. Um so I thought I was being smart. So I started going pee in the floor vents because I mean I didn't want to pee on myself. I didn't want to get beat. I didn't think anyone would ever know until it leaked into the basement. Well, it happens, I guess. And that was really rough when that happened. Um Yeah, that's when they covered up our vents. They took away our bed. They took everything. We had one outfit. They threw all the rest of our clothes away. Um, yeah, it just at that point, that's when it was like sometimes we'd get food once a day. It just progressed from there. And I remember trying to run away from home a lot at this point. Um, But me, I didn't know what to say when I ran away from home. I was just in a panic at whenever I did this. I was just panicking, and they asked why I was running away, and I told them what I thought they wanted to hear. And I was like, I ran away for sex. Well, that's not what I was running away for. I thought that's what they wanted to hear. Or maybe, I don't know. I don't know exactly what my thought process, why I said that's not why I ran away. It was just, I don't know. I was just freaking out. But yeah, um, I don't know, and it used to make me so angry because I felt like people should have known what was going on, but they didn't. I feel like people did. They just turned a blind eye to a lot of it. And it was just easier for people to believe that we deserved what was happening to us because we were like these monstrous children. Um, I don't know, but yeah. Um, there was some instances that were really um traumatic. Once they like took everything out of rooms, I remember they like put these motion sensors in our rooms, so like we couldn't move at all through the night, and they were like pointing directly at us. I remember just laying there, just terrified to go to sleep because I was afraid I was going to move in my sleep. Because if I moved, the motion sensor would go off, and it would just be this screaming, blaring siren in your ear in this enclosed room. It was horrendous. And when they'd come in and turn it off, and they'd always have this they have this spatula, they'd come in and just start beating our hands and our feet. Then what happened to one happened to us all. um yeah, is they started I remember just my hands, my feet just feeling so swollen, and I felt like if they got beat anymore, my hands and feet would split open. It was just horrendous. um yeah, it was just, I don't know. We had to pee in buckets, at this point. They wouldn't even let us out of our rooms to go pee anymore. Um, but yeah, I know I pause a lot. It's really hard to talk about, but, at the same time, it's relieving in a way. If I get emotional on you guys, don't mind, okay? So, um, I'll just go through memories as they pop up in my brain. It's not nothing's in necessarily chronological order, if that makes sense. It's just, as these memories pop up. So, but yeah, during the same time, they had us on like so many medications. They were telling the doctors we were these absolutely horrendous kids, and I found out that, they were getting adoption subsidy checks, and the more problematic your child is, the more money you get. From what I understood, I guess they were getting like 2,600 for each kid a month. I'm not 100% sure, but That's from what I understand, I guess. I may be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, they had us on so many medicines. Like I remember the psychiatrist sitting there looking at us and like, you you're on enough medicines to kill an elephant. Like most adults would have OD'd by now. So it's like I remember just thinking like they have me on OD levels of medication. Like how can they do that? Like they're really trying to kill us, and they almost did kill us a couple of times. I don't remember what led up to this incident. But one day something's going on, and my adopted mom, she sat on me. I'm sitting here, I'm like 90, maybe 100 pounds. And she's like 300 pounds, okay? And she sat on my chest, and she sat there until I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe at all. I passed out, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I woke up to her trying to do like CPR on me. Um, yeah, that was terrifying. I don't know how long I was out for. I was out for a good minute. Um, but yeah, like, um, I remember one day they did this to my brother. They got him on the floor, like on his stomach, and my adoptive dad like sat where my brother's buttocks area would be, and he put his arms like his neck and like shoulder area and pulled him back as far as he could. Like I I was so sure we were. I remember just the screams, him just screaming. You knew he was in horrendous pain. Like, I think we were very lucky he didn't break his back that day. And there were sometimes they would come in and start beating our room with baseball bats, and I'm thankful they did not hit us with it. They like to hit us with a lot of other things. Just thankfully not the baseball bat. But it's just they try to keep us scared and terrified, and yeah. At one point I remembered them like, well, look, they have this like slushy maker that they had sitting in the cabinet for like forever, okay? And they hadn't used it in like I don't know how long. And when they finally used, I guess there was like bugs in it. And yeah, they freaked out. They tried to say I put bugs in it. And then and I could tell them, no, I didn't. I don't know. I didn't put bugs in your slushy machine. But it was one of those, they wouldn't let me eat until I admitted to it. This went on for like 4 days. They starved me for 4 days until I admitted to putting bugs in the slushy machine. So, of course, eventually you're so hungry, you finally admit to it. But then they starved me for another 2 more days because I put bugs in the slushy machine, after they forced me to admit to it. Um, but yeah, one time they put dirt all over our plates. Like they filled our plates with dirt on top of on top of our piece of bologna, and they forced us to eat it. I was so sick. One time I woke up, I didn't know what they were until I was an adult, and I had been around, like my birth parents had like a small farm. I went back to them after I was 18. They had a small farm, and so I learned a few things. I guess it was botfly larva. At one point when they had put, my adopted parents had put botfly larvas in our bed. Well, not on our bed, it was like on the floor. Um, but yeah, it was our little space in our room that we slept anyways. I woke up with botfly larvae under me, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was I had no idea what these were. I guess I'm lucky that I mean, they could have burrowed into my skin and stuff and caused so many issues. I'm lucky that didn't happen, I guess. That was definitely interesting. But yeah, it's just there was a lot of beatings, a lot of beatings. And one time they had me on the floor, was just like dragging me face first across the carpet and stuff like that. And my face was just purple at this point. They just covered up with makeup. Um, and they would just tell people that like I caused it basically. I don't know. But yeah, there was a lot of trauma. They used to pit me and my brothers against each other. There's always whoever the best behaved one would get more stuff, and is their per ideal notion. I guess what they dreamed of as a family is these like perfect kids. We're not going to be perfect. We're kids. Kids aren't perfect. I remember this one time. It really broke me. Because I was trying to be so perfect, just ever so perfect. It was like for 2 weeks, I guess. They said if I could be good for 2 weeks, my doctor's dad said he would take me on a daddy-daughter date. And I managed to be so good. I tried so hard. It was literally the night before daddy daughter date. Well, I had to wear, oh, well, we were going to church or something. And so I put on this dress, and I had to wear these tights. I had accidentally poked a hole in my tights. And then they got so angry with me because I accidentally poked a hole in the tights and they beat me for it. And they were like, they thought I did it on purpose, I guess. I don't know. It was an accident. I to this day I cannot wear tights because I poke holes in them every single time. Every time I do. To this day, I'd be trying to put them on and my finger goes through. It happens every time. But yeah, and because I actually put those holes in those tights, I lost the daddy daughter date. And Red tried so hard. At this point, I was never capable of pleasing them. I knew it was never going to get better from there. No matter what I would do at this point, I could never make them happy. And at that point, I had just really given up at this point. Um, so I don't know, I just gave up. I remember sitting there in my room and just praying to the man upstairs that he would just take me home in my suffering. How I started wishing I hadn't ever been born. And I had to go through that for several years. We spent 7 years locked in a room, no school, no nothing, and just being doped up with meds and beaten and starved. And I'm not sure if we were sexually abused or not. Part of me thinks so, because I remember one time they had me out doing dishes or whatever. And it was my doctor, he made me stay up almost all night doing dishes. And well, because, I'm a kid at this point. You explore yourself in different ways. Okay. Um, at one point, he was like, during that night, he was like, I want you to explain to me how you touch yourself. He wanted me to explain like what hand I used, all this other, like, did I put my finger in or not? Yeah, it was really weird, and because I didn't want to explain it to him, and he threatened if I didn't explain it to him detail for detail, he'd make me show him. And then because they had us on so many vacations, like we were just really doped out, especially at night. I remember having this like really sexual dream, if that makes sense. And I can't explain it. And I swear, like as soon as I woke up, like I thought I heard something. I woke up and I swear my door just closed. Um, but I don't know. Would have been so out of it from the medicine. It was like, I don't know. I can think so just from those two incidences alone. I'm pretty sure it did happen. Um, but yeah, it was just so much to this. It could probably take me years to just talk about it, because things will just pop up that I don't, randomly, but you guys get the gist of everything that had happened. So, you know, eventually I was 17, almost 18. So they took me across state lines and then dumped me in a children's homeless shelter. And they allowed to do them that as long as they had a phone number on file so they could call if necessary. They never did, but that was their workaround to basically dumping us in another state. Well, me anyways. But yeah, I went to the children's homeless shelter. I ended up in a group home. I was only there for a little bit. By this point, I turned 18. So when I turned 18, I was like, I'm going to get a hold of my birth parents. And I remember I didn't know anything about Facebook or anything. I didn't know how to use a home phone. Like, okay, I had knew nothing of this. Okay, I didn't know how to do any of this. I had to try to figure it out. I remember it took me 2 weeks to create a Gmail account. And that is actually how I searched up my birth mom, was through Gmail, not Facebook, not anything else in Gmail. And then the group home found out about it, and they took away my internet access at that point. But then I started like summer school because they were trying to make me see because I was young enough, if they started me in high school, I could graduate by the time I was 21. I was just gonna have to be like have a specialized plan and stuff because I only had fourth grade education. But yeah, so they had me in that, and while I was sitting there, it was during computer class, and Facebook was like blocked, but it wasn't. You could get on there, and I was able to create a Facebook. You just couldn't see any pictures or videos, if that makes sense. But you were able to like see everything else, and that's when I searched up my parents, and I'm like, hey, I want to come home. I told them I'd gotten in trouble for, reaching out to them before. But because I'm 18, I want to go home now. And that day, they came and got me. They came and got me that day. I was. It was very bittersweet. I had almost forgotten my mother's face, my real mom, my birth mom. I almost forgot her face. It took everything I had to hold on to her. I knew as soon as 18, I was going home. And that's, I feel like, what kept me going despite everything. They came and got me. I went home. And it was beautiful. I finally had food to my heart's content. I remember I pigged out for like 5 months straight. Oh, I gained a lot of weight too, but like I just couldn't get enough. I was just I had everything I needed. I had all my needs taken care of. She started homeschooling me because she knew I had a fourth grade education. She started homeschooling me to try to help me. I was almost too old at this point to really be going to school. Because school in their area wouldn't let me go. The one with the group home they did, but this one didn't. Near my birth parents. But yeah, she started homeschooling me to try to get me up to speed. But there's a lot of issues. I was dealing with really severe depression. I was just severely underdeveloped with everything. I just didn't know anything at all. I mean, I spent 7 years locked in a room. But yeah, I kept having problems with like suicidal ideations and attempts, and there was just a lot going on. We clashed heads quite a bit just because I don't know. Eventually, I left my birth parents. I was out on the streets for a while trying to figure it out. But after, again, I had like 5 or 6 suicide attempts at this point. The one of them was I had managed to get a job, an apartment, and in this apartment, I was in housing at this time, and my brother was living with me, actually, my middle brother, and he had a job working for the newspaper, so he'd get up really early in the morning to go deliver newspapers, and so he delivered the newspaper. Well, he couldn't find my keys in the housing. It only had deadbolt locks, so you had to have the key to be able to lock it behind you. You couldn't find my key. my key string, whatever thing, that the lanyard, and so he just left the door unlocked. He just closed the door. And I woke up. My neighbor 7 doors down was standing above me. I was really just groggy and out of it. And he proceeded to rape me. After that, I had a girlfriend at the time. This was really rough. She abandoned me during that time. We were like supposed to be like 2 weeks away from getting married at this point. We were engaged. Um, but yeah, she abandoned me because I guess my rapist girlfriend was her best friend and she believed her over me because she had known her the longest. And that girlfriend had harassed me so bad, talking about, like, she created a whole Facebook just to harass me and talk crap to me. It was just telling me I deserved it, and she's gonna go to the news and all this other stuff. I thought my life was over. I was still really young and naive at this point. I just didn't realize she was bluffing. I thought she meant it. Um, but yeah, at this point, I thought my life was over. I had tried off myself. I had tried 2 different times after that. I had a long ways to go, just healing and coping with everything. I just didn't know. Um, but yeah, after that last time, the hospital was like, okay, we can't just let you go. You've tried to kill yourself one too many times. So either there's a long-term psychiatric hospital or a nursing home. Well, I know from what I do this much that if you go to a long-term psych hospital, you're not getting out until they say you can. So I opted for the nursing home. So I went to the nursing home, and I guess that was for the first time I was able to really start healing. Because they had like around the clock therapists and all this other stuff, and I had the support I finally needed to start healing for once. I was there for about 6 months, I believe. Um, I learned a lot at that point. And I'm thankful for that place because if it wasn't for that place, I'm not sure where I would be today. I'm not even sure I would be here. But they gave me a lot of skills, job skills, life skills, just coping skills, and all the skills you could think of. They were able to give that to me. And I was in a safe environment for once. But yeah, I left there. And for the first time, I was able to hold down a job. I was so proud of myself. For the first time, I was able to hold down a job. At that point, I had been at that job for 5 months. And I'm like, I called my birth parents because it was just too much for them. They had to let me go. That's why I had to leave. It's just, I was too much for them at this point. I was too damaged. They didn't know how to fix me. They tried. God knows they tried. It was just, they just couldn't. Um, they just had to let me go and pray for the best. But yeah, so I called them and they came and got me. I went back home finally. So I was there it was good. It was good. Finally, for once, I was stable. I was doing well. Then I got a job, later on that, I got this job at this big pork factory. And, I was excited. I was making money. I was there for about a year. And that's when I met my husband. I was making money. I was having a job. Just everything life was good finally. It just, I think the biggest lesson I had to learn when I was in that psychiatric nursing home, the biggest lesson I had to learn was that no one was going to save me. No one was going to help me. Because I remember praying for someone to come save me and help me when I was younger. And then as older, just from my feelings, from the pain and the misery that I carried, the crushing pain and misery. I prayed someone to come and save me from it. And I had to learn there was no one going to come save me. I can only save myself. And that's when I really started healing. You know, I learned I had to want it, I had to do it by myself. I had to do the work. No one was going to be able to do it for me. Because, at the end of the day, no one's going to care more about you than you. So, that was like the hardest lesson I ever had to learn, you know. Um, but yeah, I met my husband, and he's been my rock. He knows what I've been through. He's held my tears many times. And he still puts up with my crap to this day. And God knows I've put him through the ringer. Because, I still have my trauma. I'm still a work in progress, still working through my crap, so to speak. But yeah, he's never given up on me. He just guides me, you know. He's taught me a lot. He's had to teach me how to be a good wife, basically. I didn't know anything about it. No when we got married, so, but he's my foundation now. We start our little family now, and all I know is that little boy is going to be protected. He's not going to go through what I went through. He's never going, I don't want him to ever really feel like what it's to be lonely like that. To be that broken. I hope he never learns that. So, I'm sitting here crying, you all. This is interesting, but yeah, I'm still a work in progress, still learning to heal. And creating this podcast I, it's been another step for me to work towards healing, because I want to be able to help others and know they're not alone. And it also helps me knowing I'm not alone. Um, but yeah, well, let's draw this podcast to a close, so I can go and dry my eyes and blow my nose, because I probably sound like a stuffed pig right now. But yeah, well, thank you all for listening. I hope to hear from you guys again soon. Follow me on Facebook. You can look me up on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. My username and handle is the Fuentes Family 25. TheFuentesFamily 25. If you look that up, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the works like that. YouTube. I will plan on putting these up on these later. But yeah, I hope to see you all there.